Good evening. Good evening, good evening. I believe we're live. Hello, everybody. And please welcome Lucya. This is Lucya Starza.
Hello.
Hi. And Lucya is a very, very dear friend of mine. We've known each other for a long time, haven't we?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, years.
Very long time. It's donkey's years now. So Lucya has stepped in for me for Heather today because she's off having shenanigans, I believe. And she hasn't spoken to me at all, so it must be having a jolly good time. That's all I can say. But we've all known each other for a long time. We've known Heather for years too, haven't you? Probably longer.
Yeah, I've known Heather for a very long while. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so Lucya has stepped in today. We've got some people watching, so I'm going to say hello. We've got Hans. Hello. How are you today? I hope you're well. And we've got Red Wing. Hello, good evening. Hope you're well. And we've got some other people that are lurking. And if you're watching on playback, hello to you too. So Lucya has several books under her belt. You've written, is it 5 now?
Yeah. Well, one is I edited. This is one a community book, Everyday Magic. That's one I edited. But there's 4 that I wrote myself. That's the latest one on Scrying.
That one's not quite available,
one.
Is it?
Yeah, Candle Magic was the first one. Puppets and Magical Dolls. That's actually the best-selling one at the moment. That sells at the moment. That sells more than anything. And Guided Visualizations, which came out that last Christmas time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And not only does Lucya write books, you write a blog too, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. I write a Bad Witches blog at www.badwitch.co.uk. And I write that. I'm about 5 or 6 posts a week. So yeah, about all sorts of things, witchcraft related, folklore, history, London law, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's always really interesting. And you also put in, you put this in actually, don't you? You have a listing of local events and all that kind of stuff too, don't you? So it's a really sort of varied thing. There's always something to read on there. And of course you can access all the recent and less recent posts that you've had up too. So that's always really good too, isn't it? So there's lots and lots.
Yeah.
And it's easy to find as well. What I find on it is it's when you go on there, you've got posts, you can search for certain topics and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's really good. So yes, go and have a look.
Thanks.
So one of your favourite things is tarot.
Yeah, I collect tarot decks. I'd say it's.
How many do you think you've got?
Actually, I had a tiny little rough reckoning earlier. I think it's about 50, maybe a few more than that.
Wow, because I've got about 20, 25, so that's quite a few, but you've obviously got double what I've got, so yeah. Wow.
Yes, it's a lot. It is a lot, yeah.
What's your interest in them? Why do you collect them?
Well, I don't really know, to be honest. I find them fascinating. I find the variations in them fascinating. I find comparing the different, they all work in different ways, and so
I find that.
Yeah, and I started the first one I got. That was the first one I ever got.
Put my specs on so I can see.
Yeah, this one is it's kind of Rider White-ish, but the imagery is really rich. It's it's more pagan than the Rider White. Let me see if I can. The Wheel of Fortune it's quite bright and vibrant. Let me see if there's some others that are. There are some that are very much. Oh yeah, The Magician.
Yeah. Wow. Look at that. Wow.
Yeah. So that was the first one I ever got, and I saw a friend had a copy, and I wasn't really into tarot before then. I mean, I was aware of it, but I wasn't really into it.
Yeah.
And I thought, I've got to have a deck like that. And it was an American. It wasn't available in England then. and a friend of mine was going to America and picked up a copy for me. So that was the first deck I got. And actually, this was the second deck I got, and this was given to me. This one, some people might know him. Well, sadly he is dead now. But Terry Donaldson, or Terry the Tarot, created this. And I kind of met Terry through a magazine. I think I went along to a magazine press launch or something and got talking to Terry the Tarot. He lived in London and was a character.
Yeah.
He was a character. And he created this deck, and I was friends with him at the time, and he gave this to me. And it's inside the box. It's the Lord of the Rings tarot, and he wrote, "To Lucyas, speak, friend, and enter, with love and with friendship, to you from Terry, 1997." So that was the second deck I got, quite a long while after I actually got the first one.
Yeah.
And I don't really use this much. I mean, the artwork is by Peter Praknovich, who does a lot of really amazing dragon artwork.
Yeah.
It's all right, but I like it. I like the deck, but I don't really use it. I keep it more for sentimental value.
Yeah.
I'm now going to go on to my most recent deck, but it's probably the oldest deck in my collection.
Oh wow.
And I bought this last weekend at the Sussex Fairy Festival on a stall, and I saw it. I loved it. It's very unusual. It's very kind of 1970s. Wow. Look at that devil. That is so different, isn't it? Look at the magician.
Wow, look at that. That's so different.
So
really
different.
Unusual.
I read a review of this deck, and it was by a bloke who really hated this picture. Really hated it. Yeah. But I love it.
What deck is it, Lucia, that one?
Right. So this is a bit of a mystery.
Love the mystery.
I don't precisely know. Now, I've done a lot of research, and I've asked around on some tarot forums, and it's similar to the Element Tarot that came out in 1994, but it's not identical. Let's get the devil back, because you always want to get the devil back, don't you?
It'll work. Yes.
Anyway, in the Element Tarot, the devil has a green tail. In mine, he has a kind of creamy orange tail. The Element Tarot, it's white lettering on black, and this is black on cream. And also the Element Tarot, I think this is like quite a thin deck, and the Element Tarot, I think it's shorter and wider. It's certainly a lot of the artwork, they've kind of cut the bottom off some of the artwork. So like they've cut the bottom off the mermaid's tail in that card. The backs are also, that's the back. They're quite plain. I mean, they're really quite plain. And the cardstock, it's not high. You know, modern decks are quite highly laminated and are quite bendy. This one's really kind of thick, kind of cardboardy card, and not laminated. I don't have any, there's no book with it. There's no box lid with it. So I think it predates the Element Tarot. I got a suggestion that it might be the Dreamer's Tarot, but when I search on the Dreamer's Tarot, something completely different comes up. So if anybody, I can also show you some of the very that really reminds me, I don't know if anyone remembers the 1970s children's TV program Ace of Wands that had the magician tarot who solved crimes.
No, I don't remember that one.
That looks really, they have like a tarot deck in the intro sequence of Ace of Wands, and it's not the same, it's not identical, but it kind of reminds me of it. I think there's a bit of influence there.
Wow. So have you got an idea on date? Are you thinking 70s for that?
The style to me looks quite 70s. yeah, I mean, there's some, there's a few here that just look so, figures that just look scream 70s. I mean, she could have like come straight out of Bieber, couldn't she?
Wow. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Look at that.
Yeah, there's a few more. There's yeah, let me you know, he looks like something off a prog rock album cover, doesn't he? There's a few more that are a bit like that.
Yeah, there's a couple of guitars in there. He's well away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
possibly a rainbow, but we're for
yeah. It's going to be a few more here. There was one I found that was like, I'm not finding it now. There's a lot of female imagery. Death is female, for example.
Is it? That's unusual.
Yeah. Yeah, the wands court cards are kind of butterflies.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit psychedelic, isn't it, in some ways?
A bit, yeah, definitely.
I do have another deck from the 1970s, actually, thinking about it. It's my parents' deck that I inherited. It's the Hoi Polloi Tarot, which is it's very much like the Rider White, but kind of the colours are a bit more fluorescent.
Yeah.
So actually, possibly that isn't the oldest deck I've got. Possibly my parents' one is a bit older. I don't know. I don't exactly know.
Yeah. It's interesting though, isn't it? When you come across one, you think, what on earth's that? And then doing the research for it is really fascinating, because then you come up with all different ones. And you think, oh, and then you start thinking, well, I'll put that on my list of haunting. Put that one on the list that I wouldn't mind getting hold of. Yeah.
Yeah, but, I looked on eBay, and I could find there was another deck on eBay going for £100. I thought, oh, well, I didn't pay anything close to £100 for mine.
No.
Mind you, they might not sell it for £100, but it didn't give any information again. It didn't actually say what it was.
Yeah. How bizarre. Mind you, I suppose it's similar circumstances to you, that they probably just came across the cards and thought, well, we'll stick them on there. They're obviously old, so yeah, we'll stick them on for that and see what happens. Yeah. Wow, fascinating. So have you got a favourite deck or a go-to deck?
Well, the one I use most often is probably still the Robin Wood deck, the first one I got. One that I do love is the London Law Tarot.
Oh, wow.
And that was designed by someone who used to work at Treadwell's. I think Treadwell still have some copies, but it's quite rare.
Yeah.
I don't keep it in its I keep it in a velvet bag rather than so that the booklet will fit with it. It's all got London legends associated with the different cards. So that one is London Bridge is falling down. So it's got a picture of London Bridge and some Viking longships. And of course, Vikings did come up the Thames at one point.
Yeah.
Misplacing Cromwell in Red Lion Square. Right. I think that is something to do with where Cromwell was buried, I think. I don't quite sure what that one is. Bran's Head, of course. Bran's Head is supposed to be buried on the White Tower where the Tower of London is, and to protect England. Spring Hill Jack, of course, a bit of 19th century London folklore. Spring Hill Jack, who used to, not the same as Jack the Ripper, Spring Hill Jack used to leap out at young women and tear at their clothes. Disturbing, but he didn't actually kill anybody.
Yeah.
And of course, Ellen of the Ways, who is a goddess who Caroline Wise has written quite a lot about. Anyway, I won't go through them all, but that I find this one is one that Caroline Wise and I actually used it long before lockdown. Had the summer before lockdown, and we went on a walking tour around London where we picked a card and went to that location.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I mean, we went by river, we went by bus, we walked. We only got through about 5 cards in a day because some of them were quite far apart. But I really want to do that now that people can get out and about a bit more. It's something I want to carry on with.
She organises a tarot festival, doesn't she?
I think
Is
it's
it Caroline that organises
Arnold. I don't think Caroline Wise organises the tarot festival. I think that's Kim Arnold.
I know it's associated with either Treadwell's or Atlantis. I can't remember which one. Because I think
it's Atlantis. I think it's Atlantis.
The
tarot.
About that.
Yeah.
Last time I was chatting to her, I remember her saying about that. Because she invited me to it, and then we have been in lockdown, so that's the end of that.
It's happening again. It's in early October.
Oh, is it?
And there are 2. You can view it online, or you can go in person. It's in Kensington.
I shall have to do some investigation. So will that be on? Oh, what's the best way of finding the info for that? Do you think on Facebook?
I think I've got it listed on my events page.
Oh, on Bad Witch.
Yes, on a Bad Witch's blog. I believe I put it on my events page, not on the weekly post because obviously it's too far ahead for that. But up at the top, there's a thing that says events, and that shows things a bit further ahead.
Yeah. So what I'll do then, I'll find that and then I'll put that in the comments here so people can find it on here. I'll do that after we've finished. So yeah, then I can put a link up and then people can find it and can have a look, including me. So have you got a deck? Now, this is going to be a really tricky question for you to answer. Have you got a deck that you actually can't use or don't like?
Yeah. The Solar Buka deck. It's very weird. And it just doesn't do it for me.
No.
I bought a copy in a charity shop down in Glastonbury, and it was something like a £5, so obviously I was going to pick it up. But it doesn't do it for me. It doesn't do it for me at all.
No, it's funny, isn't it? You just get, sometimes you sort of look at them and you think, oh, yes, and you buy it and you get it home, and it doesn't matter what you do, you can't get it to talk to you. I've got some of them.
Yeah. It's got quite disturbing imagery. If you look at the imagery, there's some quite disturbing imagery on it.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I mean, apparently Pamela Coleman-Smith she took some of her inspiration from the Solar Buka because it's one of the one we've got now is like a reproduction of a really old one.
Yeah.
And so she did take some inspiration from aspects of it.
Yeah.
But the deck on its own, it's like, nah. If you look at the imagery, some of it is quite disturbing.
Yeah, I've got a couple like that. And you sort of seemed like a really good idea at the time, and you get them home and you think, well, that's all well and good, but if the imagery doesn't speak to you, because I do almost exclusively intuitive tarot, if it doesn't talk to you, then you can't use them. That's the thing. So I mean, they're quite nice to sort of refer back to, and sometimes they're quite nice to get clarification on something, aren't they? You sort of think, well, actually, I'll use something that I wouldn't normally get to talk to me, because on this occasion, if I'm not getting clarification in the normal way, sometimes it's quite nice to use something that doesn't normally speak to you, because it could be a specific question that card and that deck can answer. So that's something to think about. But yeah, no, I've got a few decks like that, and sometimes I sort of think, oh, why did I buy this? It's taking up space.
Well, for a £5 second-hand in a charity shop, I'm going to take a punt, because even if I end up not liking it, I've learned something about it, and I can always resell it and get my money back. So.
Exactly. Yeah, there is that, isn't there? Yeah.
And I'm not superstitious about, the idea that you should always be gifted tarot cards, or that, you shouldn't buy them, or you shouldn't have secondhand ones. If I like a set of cards, but I don't like the energy, I'll just cleanse them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel the same, actually. Yeah, I feel exactly the same. Yeah. No, I must admit, it's always quite a good pick-up point with charity shops. Mind you, there's a lot of charity shops that won't, if they get them in, they won't, they have policies where they won't resell them, don't they? Depending on the
Possibly,
charity.
perhaps if they're kind of Christian charities,
If they're
maybe.
Christian-based charities and stuff. So, So, but if that's the case, I've discovered that if you kind of tip them the wink beforehand, if you get some of them in, I know you can't sell them. But let me know, or keep them for me, and I'll be back next week. So yeah, that's worked sometimes too, but not often, to be fair. But yeah, occasionally that's worked. But yeah, it's interesting though. Yeah. So with your visualization, Lucia, how did you get the inspiration for so many visualizations that you've got in your book?
Well, that really started quite a long while ago, when me and a group of people who were either in the same coven or associated with that coven decided that over the course of a year we would do things for the different elements. And so I decided I was going to write 4 guided visualizations over the course of the year, one in each season for the different elements. And that was about the same time as I was starting my blog. And so I put them on my blog. And then every year, I kind of, at the start of the year, rather than just doing one New Year's resolution, I kind of set a list of resolutions. And one year it was, I'm going to write a guided visualization every month. And I put them on my blog. And then I wrote others for different reasons, some for when I ran scrying workshops, some for other things. And I realized that I'd written quite a few. And I thought it would be a good idea to collate them and put them into a book, write a few extras for the book, write an introduction, and then at the end write a bit about how to write guided visualizations. And put it into a book. So and since then I've actually written quite a few more guided visualizations. I've written quite a few actually. This year I've written quite a few. And in fact, there's going to be another one going live tomorrow, because at my Scrying workshop, I wrote one especially for that.
Oh, lovely.
So what I'm actually thinking I might do, because most of my books are published by Moon Books. But what I might do is, with the few extras I've written, I might collate them into a small ebook and put them up, like self-publish them as a little ebook. So if people want to, at quite a low price, so if people want a few more, they can have them that way.
That's a good idea, because people like to have, I personally, I love to have book in my hand, but then that's not to say that I haven't got dozens of ebooks too. Personally I prefer a book in the hand. I find it varies. I generally have a book on my phone. I've really over lockdown I've really got into the library app Libby, which allows you to borrow ebooks from the library, from your own public library, so it doesn't cost anything. And I find that's really good for spare moments. Like if I'm waiting for the cats to finish their food, I can just read a page or two of my book. That kind of thing. But I you can't really beat the feel of a book, of a real book. I agree. No, definitely. And the smell of it, I'm afraid it's one of those things. Oh God, I love the smell of the book.
It's so sad. That lovely smell is actually the paper rotting. It's actually the paper.
I know.
I know.
It's sad.
It's so lovely. Sad. It's books slowly dying. It's awful.
It's sad. Oh God. But you have a brand new book that you've written, which is not in your usual style. Now I realise that you can't say too much about this one because it's not published yet.
It's not published yet. No, I'm still editing it. I'm still editing it. Yeah.
You've ventured out into fiction, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah. I've written a novel that was in January this year. I thought, oh my goodness, we've got umpteen months of lockdown. I'm going to do something. And I wrote a novel, and I said I was going to finish writing it by summer solstice, and I did. So between January and summer solstice, I wrote. Well, it was a 20-chapter book. In editing, it's become a 21-chapter book with a prologue.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit long. It's not a long book. It's not really.
Yeah.
It's about 55,000 words. So it's not really long. It's about twice the size of my Candle Magic book. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That is about 24,000 words. So
Yeah.
it's about twice the size of that. Yes. And it's a novel. It's set in 1987 in a Kent seaside town, and it's not really genre fiction as such. It's hard to pin it, but it's kind of got Gothic elements. It kind of got Gothic elements. A group of young people discover an ancient grave that has been revealed by cliff erosion. The book is called Erosion. Revealed by cliff erosion, and for various reasons decide that they're not going to alert the authorities. And I'm not going to say any more than that.
No. Wow. Hannah. Oh! Got to buy the book. So any idea when that might be coming out?
Not really. Definitely by the end of next year. There are a few things to sort out. I still haven't quite decided if I'm going to indie publish it or traditionally publish it. I probably won't be using Moon Books because although they're great for non-fiction, I don't think they're ideal for fiction. So although I'm sure Moon Books would publish it, and they are, I'm still going to be writing. I am in fact also writing another non-fiction book for Moon Books, and there's another one that I'm supposed to be writing and is on hold. So I don't know. It could probably indie publish it because it's fiction, and a lot of my fellow Moon Books authors, they indie publish their fiction and believe that is a good way to go. So I probably will, but I want to make sure that I feel it's ready before I do that.
Yeah, sensible. Yeah. How exciting. Now, we've got a comment here. What we got here? Oh, well, silly comments. Silly comments. We'll just ditch this. There we go. Don't need that. Okay. So you have, you mentioned that you were doing a workshop on scrying. And obviously you've written a book on scrying too. Do you have a favourite method of scrying? And then you can tell us all about your charity shop find after we were at a conference.
Well, I do love scrying into a cauldron. Yeah.
Is that your very
favourite? Especially at Samhain. I mean, I think my favourite of, when we were all in a coven together, my favourite festival really was Samhain, and when we'd all get around the cauldron and scry, and I think it was really that it was that really got me to investigate other ways of scrying. I mean, when as I say in my workshops, I right from an early age, my parents and family were all kind of into weird things, and at like New Year's Eve and Halloween, we do fortune telling things, and one of the things we tried to do was scry using a big fishing float, but I was never really very good at it. I think I expected to see really clear images in it, and I was, it's like, that doesn't happen to me. Even now, that rarely happens to me. And then scrying around the cauldron in the coven, it's like I kind of got the hang of it. And started to explore more different ways of doing it. But yeah, for me, I think scrying into a cauldron is definitely my favourite.
Yeah. Do you know, funny you should say that, because actually for me that is my most difficult challenge for scrying. Interestingly, scrying in water. Yeah, scrying in water. I really struggle with that. Really do. And it's, you know, patchy results at best, I think, is probably the best way of explaining that. But yeah, I mean, I like to scribe, you know, using all different things. It depends obviously on what's available, doesn't it? But for me, I get kind of like video clips, random weird video clips is what I get. It's really strange, and of course to me they don't mean anything. If I'm doing it for somebody else, you just sort of get this strange, start watching a bit of YouTube on repeat.
Yeah,
it's very strange, and that's what
yeah.
I'll
See,
get.
I tend to get symbols. You know, I get yeah, it's all very symbolic and kind of shadowy and dreamlike, and you know, you know, and I have to spend a long while working out what those symbols mean to me. So I think in my book there is quite a lot about work out what the symbols mean to you. I do have like a list of what symbols can traditionally mean, but it can vary so much, and even
it really can.
And even if you look up books that supposedly interpret symbols, you'll get different things. I mean, I've got one book. It's a tea leaf reading book, and it's the I think it's the Secrets of the Highland Seer tea leaf reading, and it's all you're doomed. You know, I should put us go. You're doomed. You're doomed. You've seen a bottle in your cup. You're doomed. A key. Oh, you're definitely doomed.
Make a note not to get that cup then. That book. Oh God, yeah, it's a bit gloomy then.
You're going to get married, but then you're doomed.
Oh, right. What's the name of that book? I need to know how to avoid it.
I think it's Teacup Reading Secrets for Highland Seer, something like that. It's got Highland Seer and Teacup in the title.
Well, it's worth getting just to have a look at to see just how many times you can be doomed in how many different methods. Oh, that's brilliant. I like that. Oh God. So last of all, you said that your most best-selling book was the Poppets book. I'm really surprised. I thought your Candle Magic book would be the bestseller.
The best-selling in terms of overall numbers, but it's been out for a number of years. The one that sells most copies each month at the moment and has done for the last year or so is my Poppet book.
Oh right. Wow. That's really exciting. So can you explain to those people watching here what you've got in your Poppet book?
Okay. Well, there's a lot of pictures on the front of various different it's Poppets and Magical Dolls. So it's not just about Poppets, but I mean, I think most people know nowadays, certainly most people who are likely to be watching this, know that calling a magical doll a voodoo doll is perhaps not the best term to use, because really the term in traditional English magic is poppet, and that kind of that derives from an old word which kind of is the same root as puppet, but also obviously a poppet can be a term of endearment and can mean a child or a doll. And that word is quite old, dates back to medieval times, I think. So it's a more appropriate term to use for traditional English magic.
I think there's quite a large school of thought amongst people that are relatively new to the craft that that voodoo dolls were kind of the original and we've jumped on the bandwagon, but that's not the case at all, is it?
No, not really. I mean, there's cultures all over the world, and since absolutely ancient times have used effigies for spell work. That goes without doubt. And in Africa, there's a lot of traditions of using dolls for fertility and as spirit houses and for healing. But yeah, I mean, there was kind of a collision of in parts of America between European folk magic practices and African folk magic practices that together kind of came to be the voodoo doll. But it's very much to do with a collision of different traditions together, rather than one usurping the other in an unpleasant way. But even so, I am not a voodoo practitioner, and so I would not use that term. I would use one that is more from the tradition that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously you're native to this land too, aren't you? So yeah, exactly. So it makes more sense to do that. It's just that there's a lot of people I've come across over the years that if you say, oh, about a poppet or whatever, they're like, oh, you mean a voodoo doll? It's like, no. no. And yes, there's lots of crossovers and lots of similarities, clearly, but also lots and lots of differences too. Yeah, definitely. So again, with your magical dolls, do you have a favourite method of using them?
Well, right. I kind of do. And the one that I often teach at workshops is there's in up a chimney in Scotland was found a little tiny doll.
Was he doomed?
It was not. It was to protect you from being doomed. It actually was. It had psalms with it, and it was like a square of cloth that had been kind of tied into a doll shape rather than stitched and stuffed with herbs, and it was with psalms that were protective psalms, and it was a poppet of protection. And that way of making poppets I've adapted and seen adapted for a variety of different uses. I've seen them used as memorial dolls, so dolls to remember the dead. And I think we made some one year. I vaguely seem to remember we made dolls to remember the women who'd been accused of witchcraft.
Was that the
past.
red dolls we made?
The red dolls, yes, to commemorate.
Wasn't that an art installation somewhere?
There was, yes. There was a woman was creating an art installation where everybody was making these dolls, and we all sent them to her, and they were all hung up as an art installation and a memorial for women who've been died of because they were accused of witchcraft in the past. But what I teach in my workshops is a poppet to help get a good night's sleep. And the idea is in the dark times of the year, so like, Samhain, the night time was a time that people feared. It was when, nasty spirits might be out and about and, bringing mischief. And so we make poppets, and I call them poppets of protection for dark nights. And so we stuff them with protective herbs and put a few strands of our own hair into them, tie them into poppets, and then kind of do a little ritual to enchantment, which includes the words, from ghosties and ghoulies and long-legged beasties and things that go bump in the night, may my poppet protect me.
I love it. And what material would you use to make the poppet? So would that be a sort of a cloth fabric or paper, or because I know obviously you can make them out of all sorts of things, but for that particular thing, what would you use?
Well, if I'm making a poppet for myself, I would use probably something that had an association to me. So for those particular poppets, when I'm making ones for myself, I will use an old pillowcase and cut that up into squares because it has the right associations of getting a good night's sleep. And I'm totally in favour of upcycling things and making use of things, making and reusing things. In my workshops, no, I get fresh, clean squares of fabric for everyone to use. But I mean, you can use a scarf. If you've got a scarf, you can use one of your scarves, and you can take them apart again when you've finished if you want to.
It's funny actually, because last week I was talking to Hans that's watching today, and we were talking about poppets. I can't remember why, but we were. Yes, I can. But anyway, so we were talking about poppets, and it was mentioned that what's quite a useful thing to use if you are making a poppet specifically for yourself is recycling old pants. Don't get much closer than that.
Also,
Socks, don't get much closer and personal than that now, do you?
Socks make brilliant poppets. Sock material, fantastic for making poppets. I've made quite a lot of poppets out of socks, but pants, socks, t-shirts.
Anything. Absolutely, exactly. So and it's that whole thing of it being personal, because like you say, having it made from a brand spanking new piece of or square of fabric or whatever, that's all well and good, but it hasn't got anything of you in it, has it? Not unless you kind of, when you're sewing, you're not very good at it.
Put a bit of your hair into it. I mean, I normally, I've got long hair. It will shed like nobody's business. I just have to run my fingers through it and I'll get a few strands. But normally speaking, I will, at workshops, I will say put a few strands of your hair into it. If you don't have any hair, you could file a nail and put a bit of nail filing into it.
Exactly. But it's all about that personalization, isn't it? And putting part of you into whatever it is that you're creating. I love
if it's that. To represent you, it's kind of it helps it symbolize you. It helps the correspondence, it helps the energy. There's that tie.
So are you still running your workshops at Treadwell's? Is it there, or are you doing some Atlantis, or?
Neither Treadwell's nor Atlantis have run any workshops since lockdown. My last workshop there was just a week before everything shut down in March 2020. Treadwell's is doing a lot of online workshops, but I haven't been running any of them. They've got a wonderful selection of workshops. I've attended a couple as someone taking part. Susan Corby did a really brilliant workshop on familiars. Really, really, really good. That I attended. So no, I'm not running any workshops through Treadwell's. I am running 2 workshops on London Monthstead coming up, and there are live in-person workshops. There is one on poppets at the start of October, and one on scrying towards the end of October.
And where is that being held?
In the Dissenters Chapel at Kensal Green Cemetery.
Wow. Well, that's a place to take a trip to then, isn't it?
I have done one there before. I did a candle magic workshop there a few years ago. It's a little strange doing a witchcraft ritual in a chapel in a cemetery. It's a little
exactly. It's a bit different, but we like different, don't we, Lucia? Lucia, absolutely. The strangers you like. Now, what have we got here? Here we go. So Chris, who is Wibblechick, says, is a poppet as a mommet, M-O-M-M-E-T? I came across the word in a fictional work. Is that something that you've come across?
I have heard of people calling it a mommet. I'm not sure the origins of the word mommet. But I have heard people say that, but I wouldn't be able to say what the origins of the term mommet are. There are a few other terms that people use.
But they appear to be the same thing, is that right?
I believe so. It's not really, I don't know for certain. I wouldn't like to be categorical on that.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So you were at the fairy festival at the weekend, weren't you? Were you doing workshops there too, or was it just a flying visit? Pardon the pun.
I did a scrying workshop there. It was in the
Okay.
middle of the day, so we did cloud scrying and tree scrying as well as water scrying. And we were
Wow.
lucky, there were clouds. It was good. I was thinking, we'll either have no clouds, which it'll be nice and warm, but no clouds, or it will be just like grey and rain, and but it wasn't perfect. It was like, a few clouds. It was good. Yeah.
Wow. How do you do tree scrying? That's a new one on me.
Right. Okay. Well, there are a couple of ways. You can either just look at a group of trees and kind of half close your eyes and look for the shapes and patterns as the leaves kind of move.
Yeah.
Or you can do like the ancient Greeks did and sit under a tree and close your eyes and listen to the rustling of the leaves and see if you can hear messages in the rustling of the leaves.
Oh, they're very, very different methods, aren't they? Visual and auditory. Yeah. Ooh, I'll have to try that. So going back to scrying, you need to tell everybody about your shiny dog.
We were together, weren't we, at an antiques fair? We were it was we were in Boscastle, weren't we?
I think it was that.
We were
Yes,
at the
it was. Yeah.
Witchcraft conference, but then there was a little antiques market set up on the grass that was just up the stream, up the river, and we went there, browsing around, and there was a crystal, quite a fancy crystal ball, wasn't there, on a stand?
That's right.
And I asked the storeholder how much it was, and he was asking quite a lot of money. I thought, it's a bit expensive. Oh well, it'd be more expensive if it really works. And so I like going to most people. Well, it's not the crystal ball; it's the person using it. And he was like looking a bit uncertain. And I picked up this like dog ornament. It was like a dark black polished dog ornament. And I said, I could scratch that dog's bottom.
And she did.
I did.
Just to prove a point. That was funny. He didn't look best pleased about it either, did he?
No, he was overcharging for his crystal ball.
He was.
I think he probably thought, there's all these witches there for a conference, they'll pay a lot of money, but we're kind of canny witches, we're not going to pay too much.
Exactly. I think he thought he was onto a good thing. There was a lot of us, actually, wasn't there? There was a good 30 or 40 of us down there, wasn't there?
Oh yeah,
I think.
Oh yeah, probably a few more. Yeah.
And so I suppose they thought it was an ideal opportunity to get all their wares out on the grass, but was really funny. He didn't look happy after that. Especially as he hadn't made a sale. Oh dear. No, it was the perfect thing, really. Actually, it was nice, that conference, because we went off and found I've forgotten her name. I'm terrible.
Joan Crone's grave.
That's right. And we went off up there, didn't we? That was really nice. And we had
beautiful.
And we had lots of visitations by little robins, didn't we?
And we picked a load of wild garlic. I was eating wild garlic for the next week.
Yeah, I know. It was lovely, actually. It was a nice walk, though, wasn't it, up there? So a bit of a trek to find where she's actually buried, mind you, wasn't it? But having found it, it was worth it. And that's where those little robins were. And they were just a matter of feet away from us, weren't they? Really bold. Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, really nice. They say it's a portent of a deceased person, don't they, with a robin?
Yeah.
Yeah. I must tell you my bee story. I've been itching to say this.
Yeah.
So, as per usual, lots of magical things happen in my little magical house. And on Sunday, I think it was, in flew through my open bedroom window an enormous bee, great, huge, fluffy thing, with a white behind. And he disappeared behind one of my blinds, which I don't open. And he disappeared behind there and was making an awful lot of buzzy noises. So I went to investigate to see where all the buzzing was coming from. And I found him and sort of like moved the blind aside. And I'm saying to him, you don't want to be in there. There's nothing for you in there. Come on, come out through the window. Well, the window that was open, and open very wide, has got a dream catcher hanging on the handle. So eventually I managed to coerce the bee to come basically towards me so that he could fly out the window. And as he was going out the window, he stopped and like had all his legs on top of the dream catcher. So I thought, wow, okay. And then he flew in and out and in and out and in and out, all through the little holes in the dream catcher, and then buzzed off, which I was thrilled about because I've been having some pretty funky dreams just lately. It's like, well, it's not everyone that has their dream catcher cleaned out personally by a bee.
That's brilliant.
Brilliant, yeah. And he did a really good job of it too. Because it was a bit cobwebby. You know when things are hanging up, you sort of dust the surfaces and you forget about, well, I do. I forget about the things that are hanging up. And yeah, but he did a really good job of it. And I haven't had any funky dreams since, so I'm quite chuffed about that.
I think a lot of people have been having very strange dreams this last couple of years.
Yeah, I think so. Mind you, I suppose, I don't know whether it's lack of fresh air or lack of stimulation or too much screen time. I suppose it could be a combination of all sorts of things, really, couldn't it? But yeah, definitely. Mind you, I went through a phase of having, I normally have a lot of really, really vivid dreams. And I went through a phase of several months, actually, of not having any at all. And it's like, whoa, that's unusual. I don't normally have no dreams. You know, maybe, you know, occasionally I might have, you know, sort of just one or two snippets here and there that I remember. But normally I have a lot of, you know, and I remember a lot of very varied and vivid dreams. And as I say, I went through a phase of not having any at all. I thought, oh, that's a bit strange. That's not like me, as I say, and they've kind of come back again. But now, obviously, I needed to have them cleared out and sorted out. And thanks to my bee, that's been sorted. So, yeah, I'm quite chuffed about that. He was a whopper, though. It was quite a struggle for him to fit through some of the gaps. But he did. In and out, in and out, in and out. Off he went. It was lovely.
It's quite late in the year for a bee too, isn't it?
Yeah, mind you, I've got a lot here, I think, because it seems to me that they kind of seem to come away from the like the more urban areas, and they seem to come back to the country areas so that they can kind of settle, I suppose, over winter. And of course, being in the country, they're coming back my way. Because I've got lots. I've got a big jasmine bush just outside my bedroom window. It's huge. It's mostly round, and it's about 7 foot diameter. It's absolutely massive. So it's constantly buzz, 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 buzz all the time. And that doesn't seem to be letting down. So I've still got lots of bees here, but not big, fat, fluffy ones like he was. He was the perfect duster. It really was. I'd recommend it. If you can find a bee, point him in the direction of your dream catcher and say, would you mind? Because I don't think they do. Just imagine with this little feather duster and a penny on. Oh dear. Ooh.
So you're doing a dragon ritual this weekend, aren't you?
I am. I can't wait. I'm really excited. So I've finished writing it now. And it's got lots and lots of different elements to it, a couple of which are a surprise, and I can't let out the secret out the bag, but I can talk about that next week. But I've got a guided visualization that I'm doing, which I'm really looking forward to doing. And that will be taking people to meet their own personal dragon. So that'll be fun. That will be fun. And last week, no, actually nearly a fortnight ago, I went over to the area to go and, sort of check out the area, because there's a specific area in St Leonard's. Oh, hello. Big Daddy Longlegs floating about. I wonder what he's going to clean for me.
We don't get as many Daddy Longlegs as we used to, do we?
That's because they're all in my house.
Oh, right. They're not in my kitchen. They're in your house.
Oh, I have to tell you my Daddy Longlegs story. I have to tell you that. So last Thursday was Magic in the Woods Day for me, Heather, and Hans. Magic in the Woods. So we decided that I'd make curry and take it so that we could eat it, because we were going to be down there a good 7, 8, 9 hours. So I thought, well, what better to take than some curry? You can heat it up, eat it with some bread. It's nice and easy. So after the witching hour last Wednesday, I started making this curry. and it's got stinging nettles in it, it's got chickpeas in it, it's got all sorts of stuff in it, and it's bubbling away on the stove. And of course, it's quite a quantity because it's for the three of us. It's bubbling away. Left it to its own devices for a little while because that's what you do. And I went back, and it's like, oh no, it's accidentally not vegan because it's now got a deceased daddy long legs in the top.
Oh no!
It's like, oh god, that's not good. It was a vegan curry, and now it isn't. Like, oh god. So of course I felt awful, but what can you do? So took out the daddy long legs, but only 2 of its legs came out.
No!
So here's another one. Go away. So only 2 of its legs came out. It's like, okay, where's the other 4?
It's like when you bite into an apple and there's half a maggot in it, isn't it?
So there's me and Hans, and we're like literally over this bubbling pot of green stuff. 2 witches hanging over this bubbling pot of green stuff, poking at it with a sharp knife and sort of like turning it over to see if we could find the remaining 4 legs. Like, this is a witchcraft. I don't know what is. Anyway, we managed to retrieve 2, which meant it was like, well, there's 2 in there. It's going to be like the silver sixpence in the Christmas pudding, isn't it? So I got one. I think Heather got the other one. It was just like... So, yeah, so much for vegan food. Yes. So that was a bit grim, really, but it was funny. I just had this, you know, you kind of like can see something away from, like, you're like looking down on it. It's literally 2 witches over this green bubbling stuff. It's green, obviously, because I've cooked it with stinging nettles. So there we are, poking at it with this bubbly stuff, trying to get leg of not dragonfly, leg of daddy long legs out. And it's like, oh god. Yeah, tasted quite nice actually. I don't think it added that certain je ne sais quoi, but maybe it did. God. Oh dear. Anyway, so going back to the dragon ritual. So I've gone down with Laura to try and find the perfect spot to hold the ritual, because obviously with woodland it can be a bit hit and miss, can't it? Because one place might be suitable and stuff. But we particularly wanted to go to where, you know, the actual site where these legends sprung from. Turns out it's not actually that accessible. But we managed to, we literally managed to get the attention of the spirit of dragon quite dramatically. And then we kind of said, you know, well, this is our link. And we kind of imbued some heather and some leaves and stuff and sort of said, you know, this is our link, you know, come with us. And then we sort of said, this is where we're going to hold the ritual, and we found a better place. And this is where we're going to hold it. So we'll meet you here in a fortnight, basically. So that's what we did. It was amazing, actually. So I can't wait to do this. So, yeah, so there'll be a guided meditation, visualization to do to meet everyone's inner dragon. So that should be fun. And I'm quite excited to do that, because I get really carried away with visualizations. So I'm really looking forward to that. So that's all written. And yeah, as I say, then there's all sorts of other elements which are secret till next week, and then I'll talk about it next week. So, but I'm really looking forward to it. I think it will be good, and I think it will be beneficial for people. But we're doing it on Sunday because it's the nearest that we could get for the equinox. So it's kind of like marking the 2 things at like 2 for 1, if you like. So we're sort of doing the dragon thing, but it's also marking the equinox with balance and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, actually I think that should be should be brilliant. I'm really looking forward to it. I just hope the weather stays reasonable. That's all you can ask for, isn't it? If it's just, you know, doing nothing, a complete lack of weather, I think, is what we want, rather than something fancy. Just no weather at all will be perfect. Not hot, not cold, not windy, not rainy, not anything, just not. No weather, please. Are you doing anything for the equinox?
Well, possibly. there is a group that I sometimes meet up with, and I might be meeting up with them. I'm not entirely sure, but it's one of those things where I don't have to turn up.
Yeah.
I haven't got a part in the rituals, so yeah, I might be doing that. But it's kind of a small private group, so can't
Yeah.
really chat about it on
No,
YouTube.
that's fair enough. Yeah, but no, that's fair enough. And last but not least, you formerly ran a moot, didn't you? Are you going? Are you thinking of restarting that now that everything's opening back up again?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I ran a small local moot in my local area, and I had a go at having a little meet up earlier this month, and it was just me and one other person.
Oh. I think people are still a bit reticent to come out. Because I restarted my moots about was it July? Yeah, right at the beginning of July, I started mine. So I've done July, August, and September. So I've done 3, and still people are, they're still quite hesitant about coming out and meeting up and stuff. And I think it's just, just time. I think really it's
my moot's been not meeting for longer than that though, because I stopped because a few years ago, in fact, I just finished it kind of the year just before lockdown started. I was doing an MA, and I just did not have. I was doing an MA in a year, as well as some other work, and it was just I don't have time to continue running this. So it had not been running for about a year and a half before lockdown started.
Yeah. Well, that's fair enough, isn't it? Yeah. But do you think you might persevere with it?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance. Yeah, I'm not saying definitely one way or the other, but I'll certainly have another go at having another meeting and see what happens.
See what happens. Because again, it's one of those things, if it happens to clash with something that, and I don't know about you, but there seems to be so much stuff that is happening at the moment. I think everyone's sort of, way, we're free, and everyone's out and about, and let's do this and let's do this, and I'm like, oh God, there's just not enough days in the week. Bonkers. So yeah, and I think a lot of people are being double booked and stuff, so yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? But so it's a watch this space then.
Yeah. I think it's possible I will. I think there's a very good chance I will be starting it up again, but nothing's particularly set yet.
Yeah, presumably if and when you do, you'll announce it on a Bad Witches blog, won't you?
Do you know, I didn't.
You didn't
in the past when the moot ran. I didn't, because it was really just for local people in my area. So no, I didn't used to announce it there at all.
Yeah.
It was kind of a small friendly moot for a kind of a group of friends. So I might open it up wider than that and advertise it on my blog. But I mean, for me, witchcraft, there are many different levels of witchcraft, because there's public witchcraft, and then there's private things that you do. And so not everything I do. I mean, I blog about a lot of stuff, but there are other things that I do that are more private.
But you keep to yourself. Yeah, I'm exactly the same, because obviously I'm on here and I talk about some of the stuff that I've been up to, but not everything. So yeah, exactly. So it's how it should be. Exactly. Some things aren't really for public consumption, are they?
Yeah. Not everything should be on YouTube.
No, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. So there we go. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today and stepping in for Heather, who obviously is chomping at the bit to watch back and see what you've got to say.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much. And yes, I'll put the link for not only I put a link for Bad Witches blog. No, I didn't. I said about it. So I'll put a link for Bad Witches blog, and I'll also put a link for the tarot thing that's coming up, and I'll put that up in the comment section below, so you can have a look on there. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and for those people that are watching back, hello and thank you. And yeah, I'll be back next week with Heather, who will be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Meanwhile, this is where we get to do the awkward wave, Lucia. Are you ready?
Okay.
Awkward wave time. Here we go. Cheerio.